So the first thing you're going to want to do is going to make sure that your cart is completely unplugged from the wall and that the fuses located under the right rear leg of the base are removed. You should have 2 fuses. This ensures that the cart is 100% powered down before you start working on it. Now the second thing you're going to want to do is you're going to make sure that all your equipment and your devices are completely disconnected and removed from the cart. This is to help with any obstructions. That way nothing's in your way while you're trying to operate. We don't have anything on this cart right now, but we do have a keyboard and mice, just for an example of what you should do, as well as how to manage these wires out from the port in the back. As you'll notice, there's a slot in the back where the wires come down in, and you can actually reach up from underneath it to help guide you on some of the wires. Now with the 3 outlet plug, it's a little bit fatter, so you kind of have to work it. I suggest pushing it towards the back wall with the outlets facing this way, and then you'll be able to angle it down to easily remove it. Okay, now that you got the cart completely powered down, as shown in the remote display, and that you also have the wires and any sort of devices removed, we're now going to move on to the next step of dismantling the cart. And that is, we're going to remove the remote display from the top of the work surface. Now you're going to notice on the inside of the cart that there is a wire clamp and a screw just underneath the top of this work surface. You're going to use a screwdriver or a screwdriver bit or a drill to remove that screw clamp to free that wire up. Now that you remove the P-clamp of wire, you're going to remove the 4 screws that's holding the overlay into the work surface. Now you can reach up underneath and kind of give it a push. There's a hole cut out to help you remove the remote display. Now you'll notice there's a small tab. It's like an Ethernet cable. Push down on the tab and pull out. Now you can remove the remote display from the cart along with the wire, and you route that the same way as you remove the other wires in the previous step. Okay, after you remove the remote display and the overlay and you've removed the wire from the work surface, we're now going to remove the cord hook that has 2 screws, as well as the mouse house that also has 2 screws, and they're located on the opposite side of each other. You will notice that the cord hook has the 2 black screws, and that the mouse house has 2 silver screws. You want to keep that in mind for when you go to reinstall them back on the new unit. Okay, now we're going to remove the transmitter pad from the work surface. This is the transmitter pad you use for your stealth lock. You're going to open up the compartment. You notice it has 4 bolts. You're going to remove these bolts with a cross tip screwdriver. And you're just going to push on that, removing both the transmitter pad and the transmitter pad retention plate. Alright, our next step, we're going to be separating the keyboard assembly area from the actual work surface. Now to do this, we're going to be using a 5/32 Allen wrench or a drill attachment, and we're going to be removing the 2 lower bolts that's located underneath the keyboard assembly, as well as loosening the 3 bolts just above that. Now please keep in mind that you do not have to take these 3 bolts all the way out. I suggest not to. I would only back them out. But you will be completely removing those 2 bolts. And the same amount of bolts need to be loosened or removed on the other side. Next, we're going to use the adjustment paddle to lower the cart and rise it up just a little. We're also going to remove the back panel that's covering the wires. Now to remove the keyboard tray, you're going to extend the keyboard all the way up, and you're going to use your hands on both sides, gripping this bottom part and pulling away to separate the assembly. Allow it to go down. Don't allow it to crash. That's why you want to lower it and just rise it up just a little. If you need more, adjust with the paddle as needed. Do not let this go all the way up. Now, before we fully separate the work surface from the cart itself and the cylinder, we need to remove the 5 P-clamps, wire clamps, and screws that are located in multiple spots on here. There's 5, 1, 2, 3, 1 back here, 1 back here, makes 5. As well as the 2 black screws for the cylinder paddle. You use this by using a stubby screwdriver or a drill attachment. Okay, so the next thing we're going to work on is removing the work surface from the cart and the cylinder itself. To do this, we're going to open up the compartment and using a 5/32 Allen wrench or drill attachment and a Phillips screwdriver, we're going to place the Allen wrench into these JCM nuts and the Phillips screwdriver to secure the bolt at the bottom. And we're going to remove the nut from the bottom of the plate. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that you will want to have somebody keep a good hand on this, because these 4 bolts are the only thing keeping this work surface onto the cylinder. So you want to make sure that somebody's keeping good leverage so it doesn't fall off and hurt you or damage any parts. When you shut the compartment, you're also going to want to make sure that the key is in the lock position so that it doesn't come off when trying to remove. If the keyboard assembly of the original cart is not damaged, it'd be much more simple and efficient to remove the keyboard assembly from the replacement top that you recently received. You do this the same way that you're removed from the cart itself, by completely removing the 2 bolts that's located underneath the keyboard and loosening the 3 bolts above that. In this scenario, they'll be below it. You do that on both sides. Once you remove the bolts, you're going to have a firm grip on them, on the keyboard assembly. You're going to loosen the side panels and pull outward. Now that you remove the bottom keyboard assembly tray from the replacement top, you can now place the top back on here, on the cylinder. Align the holes of the cylinder with the JCM nuts and the bolts. And we're now going to secure all the bolts. I already have 3 secured. Take your bolt, slide it up through. And you're going to do that for all 4 bolts. Again, you'll be using a 5/32 Allen wrench and a Phillips screwdriver. Now that you have the work surface secured to the cylinder of the cart, you're going to now install the paddle for the cylinder onto the bottom of the work surface using those black screws that you took off previously. There should be holes already pre-drilled for you to complete this task as simply as possible. After that, you're going to put the wire management clips back on with the screws. remember that there are 5 clips and 5 screws. You will notice that you have a USB cable in the back and a Cat 5 cable in the back. The USB cable will go on this side, the right side. The Cat 5 cable will be installed with the wire management clip, the P clamp, on the left side. Now that we got the paddle on for the cylinder and we have the wire management clips all screwed in, we're now going to attach the work surface onto the keyboard assembly. This will be done by using the paddle that you just recently installed, engaging it and pressing downward just to where it barely touches the keyboard. Now, one thing to pay attention to is the wires in the back. You do not want to get them caught when trying to place this back together. So just make sure all the wires are not in the way. You're going to again separate, push these out a little, and using your hand, kind of grab up on the bottom of the tray assembly. Once you do that, push the keyboard in to kind of lock it in place a little, and that kind of holds it up. Now you're going to use the bolts that you recently removed from it. Once again, before doing so, assuring that there's no wires to be caught or pinched. You're going to place them inside their appropriate slots. Once you do that, you can go ahead and tighten up all the screws on that side. And remember, you have to do the same to the other side as well. Once this is complete, we will now start to install the accessories back onto the cart. The overlay, the transmitter pad, the hook, and the mouse house. Now, once we have the cart basically reassembled, we're now going to start putting on the accessories. First, we've got the overlay, the remote display, and the transmitter pad and the transmitter pad retention plate. Now, to start off, we're going to open the compartment. We're going to pick up the transmitter pad and the transmitter pad retention plate. We're just simply going to place the transmitter pad inside, place the retention plate on top of it, and secure it down with the 4 bolts that you recently removed from it. They do not need to be super tight. Snug will work. Next, we have the overlay and the remote display. And you're going to do that, you're going to take your Cat 5 patch cable, P-clamp, and the silver screw. You're going to take the Cat 5 cable running up through the hole that's provided for you and plug it in to the back of the remote display, just like you would a phone cord or an Ethernet cable. You're going to place it inside the slot designated for it. Take the overlay, place on top of it. Using the 4 black screws that you recently removed, you're going to reinstall those. What's left is you have 1 silver screw to go inside that P-clamp that you removed previously. Next for the accessories that we're going to be installing is the mouse house and cord hook. Now just a reminder, the cord hook got the 2 black screws and the mouse house the 2 silver screws. You will notice that the mouse house screws, the silver screws, are a little bit larger than the other silver screws that you were using. Using a screwdriver, you're just going to realign the holes. Put the screws in where you previously took them out. Again, you're just taking the screw and aligning it with the holes where you previously took it out of the other top, the work surface. Your new work surface should already have pre-drilled holes for you, designating where these screws should go. And last but not least, you're just going to take the wires that you routed out of that port in the very beginning. I would suggest starting with the 3 outlet cord, as it is the biggest, and you're just going to slide it up at an angle into that slot. Next would come your USB cable and any other cables that you might have for any equipment. Once you install that, you're just going to go ahead and install your monitor arm and any sort of devices or computer equipment that you were going to install on this.